Hey YouTubers, I don't know how I missed this article earlier. This is actually a couple months old. Jews in the town of Mitzpah, Jericho, are taking practical steps to prepare for the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem by preparing descendants of priests and Levites for service. At the school, temple priests hopefuls learn exactly how to conduct the daily temple service and offer required sacrifices. Now, if you've seen my old video, there's a Herva synagogue that's going to be completed in March, and then there's a rabbinical, someone who prophesied that the third temple would be built after that. So if you're going to have a third temple and you're going to begin Passover sacrifices again, you got to have somebody qualified to do it, right? Well, that's these guys, and that's what this school's for. So check this out.
Today is really a historical event for the Jewish people. It is the beginning of the work of the third temple, construction for the third temple. Here in Mitzpah, Jericho, we are building a field school for Kohanim and Levites in order to teach them the work that they have to do in Yerushalayim when the temple will be rebuilt.
We are starting to build the replica of the temple here in Mitzpah, Jericho, that will serve as a school to educate the Kohanim, the priests, how to serve in the temple. It will be an exact replica of the temple, and today we're drilling the holes for the libations, the water and wine libations in the altar.
And they will learn exactly what they have to do. When the time comes and the temple is rebuilt in Jerusalem, they will know exactly how to perform this service.
The time when the Arabs are writing in Yerushalayim, and the spokesman is saying that the temple wasn't built in the Temple Mount. Never the Jews had the Bet HaMikdash there. If they would have there, they would never let the Arabs go up there. And this time that the Arabs are trying to throw us out of Har HaBayit, out of the Temple Mount, saying you don't have anything to do, we have to strengthen our connection in trying to show that we have what to say. We're going to teach the Kohanim how to work in Bet HaMikdash, and with God's help, faster than we have the students, we will have the people going to work and sacrifice korbanot in Bet HaMikdash.
We've been waiting for the last 2,000 years for the rebuilding of the third temple. And here it is, for the first time, we're actually taking concrete measures in order to fulfill that dream and start the process of the third temple.
There was an older rabbinic authority from the 18th century, and I'm going to butcher the name, says Vilna Gaon, or Gaon, I don't know. What they predicted was that there was a synagogue called the Herva synagogue, and what they were saying was that the third time that this synagogue was rebuilt, that's when the third temple, the Jerusalem third temple, would be rebuilt. Well, this thing is supposed to be dedicated on March 15th, I believe. So what this article's getting at is that the third temple could begin construction on March 16th. So just for this stuff to pop up in the past few days, this is amazing.
The Temple Institute has begun building the sacrificial altar on Thursday, Tisha B'Av, a fast day, when Jews mourned the destruction of the temple some 2,000 years ago. So they have begun building the sacrificial altar. You know, the Temple Institute has built most of the tools to be used in the temple, and now they are building the sacrificial altar. It was located near the center of the temple compound, and upon it the priests offered various sacrifices as commanded in the Bible. The The Temple Institute, which has already built many of the vessels of the Holy Temple, such as the Menorah and other sacrificial instruments, has now embarked on the project to build the altar. Construction begins Thursday east of Jericho at Mitzpah. This could be the place where the tabernacle was originally set up whenever the Jews crossed the Jordan River and came over and camped on the west side of the Jordan River before taking the city of Jericho. This Mitzpah here is also a place in the Scriptures where Samuel brought the people out to perform sacrifices, and that could be the spot referred to in the Scriptures. Unfortunately, says Mr. Glick, who heads up this project, unfortunately we cannot build the altar in its proper place on the Temple Mount. The Temple Institute director said, "We are building an altar the minimum size possible, and so that we'll be able to transport it to the temple when it is rebuilt." In other words, they're building the altar now out near the Jordan River, east of Jericho, but they have hopes of transporting it to the temple site when the temple is built. He says that even a minimum size altar will work out to be approximately 12 feet tall, 18 feet long, and 18 feet wide. Workers have collected around 10 cubic meters of rocks, weighing several tons already. The rocks were gathered from the Dead Sea area, probably near the Jordan River inlet, and wrapped individually to assure that they remain whole and not touched by metal, as the Bible requires. He says the Torah says that no iron tool should be used on the altar's stones. He said the altar represents a connection to life and the creation of the world. Iron is the opposite. It is used to build tools of war, death, and destruction. If you recall, the Temple Mount, according to Jewish folklore or legend, this is not in the Bible, but the Jews believe that the Temple Mount is where God created the universe from. That he first took the Temple Mount, the rock there is under the Dome of the Rock, and he built from that everything there is in this world. And so that very spot is called the navel of the earth. In other words, from it springs forth life. Life, enters the baby at the navel, and that is in the center of the body, okay? So Jerusalem's Temple Mount is the center of the world and is the place where life began. The Jews believe that God created Adam on that spot. So he goes on to say, the stones will be cemented together with a mixture of sand, clay, tar, and asphalt. Researchers from the Temple Institute visited a glass factory to learn how to create a mixture which would remain as cool as possible under the altar's unremitting fires and protect the priesthood who always worked in the temple barefooted. Glick said that Tisha B'Av is a day associated with mourning, but it is really the ideal time to begin to build the temple. People mistakenly think that Tisha B'Av is only a day to cry, he explained. It also has to be a day of action. We have the ability in our era to begin the construction of the temple. He said there are many positive developments recently with regard to the temple. Hundreds of Jews have visited the Temple Mount this week, and more continue to come and undergo the ritual immersion. So the Temple Institute is building the sacrificial altar out east of Jericho, 12 feet tall, 18 feet wide, 18 feet long, to prepare for the day when they will move it to Jerusalem, to the Temple Mount. And of course, we don't know when that would be, but there is also news on the Temple Institute's website of the Red Heifer. As I understand it, and I'm not able to confirm it at this time, they have 4 red heifers. But they say, according to the Mishnah, the Messiah will come and sacrifice the 10th red heifer. There have been 9 red heifers in history that have been sacrificed. They now have 4 possibles for the upcoming 10th red heifer. So they are ready for the Messiah to come. Now, I don't know if this will be the antichrist or who it will be, but nevertheless, they say that they have a red heifer ready, but that the Messiah will have to come and build that temple. Now, it's my opinion that the Jews will build the temple during the tribulation period, certainly before the Messiah comes. I don't know how they're going to work around that, but these are interesting days. They are now building the sacrificial altar with stones out of the Jordan River near the north end of the Dead Sea.